What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week of sports and movies. Going to get right into it here. Let's jump right into it with the NBA. So, for the NBA, I haven't really figured out how I want to script this out yet, but I just wrote stuff down that I thought was cool. Topics and big points and stuff. So, I wrote the Pistons beat the Jazz the other night. The Pistons have still playing very well, continuing from last season. Jalen Duren came in with 22 points and 22 rebounds. That's a heck of a stat line. That's a grown man stat line. But, I've always said if the Pistons want to be a genuine championship contending team, it's going to come from their young guys. It's going to come from, Cade, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser, Ausar Thompson. Those are the guys that are going to make you a championship core. As much as, last year they got a lot of contributions from guys like Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris. Those are great players in the regular season, but they're not big contributors on a championship. A championship contender would not touch those players if they really wanted to be a legitimate team. If you want to be successful and be a genuine contender, it's going to come from your young core, the homegrown drafted players. So I think if they can continue to play well, improve, play a lot better, obviously haven't had Jaden Ivey back yet, Pistons could be a very scary team in a pretty wide open East. Walker Kessler is out for the season with the Utah Jazz. It's a pretty big hit for them, although I do think I like their big lineup. Obviously, they've got Kyle Filipowski. They've got Lauri Markkanen is not really a 5, but they've got size that it's not really going to be the end of the world for them. And I've kind of long thought that they have a bit of a log jam at that position. Obviously moved on from John Collins this summer, but Jusuf Nurkic has been playing pretty well for them. I don't think he's a great player, but he's been playing pretty well for them. And I think this is kind of the season that I've been waiting on for the Jazz. I think they have a lot of talent, but I think you can put a lot of talent. You could have a roster that on paper has the most talent in the world. If they don't go out and win games, it doesn't mean shit. So I've been very impressed with the Jazz improving their play. We'll see if it sustains long term, but they definitely have the talent to do it for sure. I have the Lakers keep rolling pretty much whoever plays. LeBron's been out with obviously a sciatica injury. With Luka, they win. They beat the Spurs the other night without Austin Reeves. Without Luka and LeBron, with just Austin, they win. Even without Luka and Austin, they still beat a very solid Portland Trail Blazers team with big contributions from DeAndre Ayton, Rui Hachimura, and Nick Smith Jr. Lakers just been playing really good. The roster guys, the team is playing well. And, I said the other night, could you imagine 2 years ago if LeBron and Anthony Davis didn't play, saying that the Lakers role guys that their bench would be able to go beat a very solid Blazers team, or even the Blazers team of 2 years ago? No one would believe that. They would say you're full of shit. I've said shit twice this video. The Sixers have been playing very much improved in the East. Obviously don't have Paul George back. Joel Embiid still kind of on a minutes restriction, but they've been playing very well behind some very good guard play. BJ Edgecombe has looked like probably the best rookie out of the class. He's averaging about 20. Quentin Grimes averaging 18, 20 points, and I'm going to get to him here in a minute, but Tyrese Maxey has been one of the best players in the NBA. Not just guards, not just in the East, in the NBA, period. He has been excellent. The Sixers were a team that everybody thought was going to be pretty good last year, or really good last year. Failed miserably up to expectations, but had managed to hit twice in the draft, bringing in Jared McCain, who we haven't seen this season, but I'm expecting very good play from him once he gets back. He was playing very well last season before he got hurt. Combine that with VJ and Quentin Grimes and Maxey, they're going to have a really great guard rotation. And, when he's healthy and plays well, one of the best bigs in the league in Joel Embiid. And obviously Paul George, we'll wait and see what we get from him. But I think their roster looks really good. They've got some good contributions from Adem Bona. He was a pickup from UCLA. They drafted him the draft before last, 2024 NBA draft. I'm losing my mind. But they've been playing very well. I think we'll see if they're able to sustain it. They just seem to have the worst injury luck I've seen of a lot of these teams. But this Sunday we have the Pistons and Sixers, both teams I've talked about. That's going to be a big matchup for the East. Obviously, no game is going to make or break the season, but it is interesting to see these good teams go up against each other and kind of find out if one is a fraud, if they're both frauds, if now there's frauds. Everybody's a fraud, right? We'll see from that. But my main point for the NBA this week is really just how good is Tyrese Maxey. His current averages are about 34, 5, and 8. At one point last week, they were like 35 and 10. He has looked amazing. He's always improved over his career. He started out about a 20-point per game player. They move on from James Harden. He goes up to about a 26 and I think everybody kind of thought 26 and 8, 26-6. That's kind of the guy he'll be, which is a very good player, which is an all-star player, which is a borderline third-team All-NBA player. He's been excellent, but this season, I mean, he has really took it up. He is an MVP-level player if he's able to sustain this long-term. Do I expect him to sustain it long-term? Not really. But, I mean, if he regresses to 27-8, oh my God, it's awful. You know what I mean? He has been that good, though. But we'll see what we get from him. A lot of good stuff in the NBA coming up. We're about 10 games, closing in on 10 games to the season, which is crazy. It's about an eighth of the way already. That just sounds crazy to say, but we'll see how a lot of these storylines progresses. Hopefully we stay free from a lot of injuries, at least for now. I hope. That's all I got for about the NBA this week, though. For the NBA, not the NBA. So for the NFL, we have a lot of big games this past week. Probably one of the bigger wins is the Steelers and Colts. The Steelers ended up winning that game 27-20. I think their defense forced like 5 turnovers. It's the game that I think everyone has expected from the Steelers defense, which has largely been disappointing for a large portion of the season, but definitely showed up against probably one of the best offenses in the NFL. So I think that's a big sign for them, and that's something they can build off of and look at and come back to and hopefully, improve their play for the rest of the season. I don't know that it means too much for either team. Obviously, the Colts are now just 7-2. Definitely not the end of the world, but it is a big win for the Steelers. They definitely needed that. I think they needed that look. And, it's probably 2 playoff flukes playing each other, but we'll see if it's important down the stretch. The Bills beat the Chiefs 20-21. Pretty much just continues the trend. The Bills dominate the Chiefs in the regular season. The Chiefs dominate the playoffs. We'll see if it means anything for either team. It's not really, I don't think, that important until the playoffs. Where the Chiefs, I just feel like, always end up dominating the Bills, even though the Bills probably the better team right now, and really have been in the past. We'll see what ends up happening there. But Patriots beat the Falcons 24-23. Falcons are just not clicking this year. I don't know what it is. I think their team should be a lot better than they are. They've had some big wins, but it's tough for them. Patriots having a really good year. They have much improved. Drake May has looked great. They have really, just picked it up from not the best season ever last year to having a really, really good playoff, bound season this year. So we'll see what ends up happening with them. A couple of really good upcoming games. We have the Ravens and Vikings Sunday. Both teams that have improved a lot. J.J. McCarthy looked a lot better last Sunday, threw for 4 touchdowns. The Ravens are improving and obviously have some of the best odds to win the AFC North. So we'll see what ends up happening with them. I've said that like 14 times in this video. But we will see what happens. There will be one winner, one loser, or they will tie. That has happened this season, so who knows? But I think it's really interesting to look at both teams. I think the Vikings are still in the playoff race, but they're just kind of in like the worst division to be kind of clawing back from behind a little bit. But we'll see what ends up happening there. We also have the Rams and 49ers rematch of that great Thursday night football game a few weeks back. It's going to be really interesting. The Rams are playing some of the best football. Matt Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the league this season. And the 49ers have just kind of overcome through so many injuries. So we'll see who's healthy, who's even playing for the 49ers. And I'm expecting a very good matchup for that, though. One of the biggest things that unfortunately happened this past week was Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels dislocated his left shoulder. Everything I've read says that it's said to be not as bad as initially feared. He could return at some point this season. Should he return? I think that's kind of a big debate. Personally, I think he should return if the wide receivers are healthy, if Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, and if they're going to have an offense to run, I could see it being a good thing to put him back out there, let him get some more reps in the season on a good note. But if you're going to play this game of let's run him out there with 4th and 5th strings and be all upset when he's not Superman, let's just shut him down for the rest of the year, bring him back next year. It's obviously be great. Hopefully the injury luck is not as bad next year. The team has just been so riddled by injuries all season. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But definitely could have been a lot worse. Obviously, I think the Commanders just as a team, and I'm saying this objectively, I am a fan, but, the defense is just not there. I think the defense needs significant improvements, the kicking needs improvements, and the offense just has to be healthy. They theoretically have a really great offense. It just hasn't been healthy for big portions of the season. And if you're not healthy, you can't play and you can't win games. I could have the best roster in football. If they're all hurt and they're all on injured reserve, we're not going to be able to win any games. 0. But that's all about I have for NFL this week. Stay tuned for more. So, for college football, we had some pretty big shakeups this week. Obviously, the first release of the college football playoff ranking, that might not be what it's called, something like that. But so I'll start off. One of the biggest games was an NC State upsetting Georgia Tech, 48-36. It's a pretty big blow for Georgia Tech. They really needed to be undefeated going into that Georgia game, and then I think they probably could lose the Georgia game and still have a decent chance. Now they're pretty much going to be banking on they got to beat Georgia. I really don't know that a 2-loss team is getting in unless they're able to make and win the ACC championship, which I haven't looked, but maybe possible. But it's going to be tough with teams like Virginia and Louisville that have both been playing really well, and Miami, who I'm just going to talk about it, got upset by SMU in overtime, 26-20. Not what they wanted either. It's not the best week for the ACC. Miami really didn't need to lose to Louisville. Losing again to SMU is really bad for them. I don't know that they're going to be able to make the conference championship. And I really don't know that a 2-loss ACC team is going to get in over a 2 to 3-loss SEC team. Should they? It's a debate for another day. But I'm just saying it doesn't look great for either program. But if you're Georgia Tech, you obviously are just sitting saying, let's get some big wins, let's end the season well, and let's go into Georgia and win. That's what it's going to take. If they beat Georgia, they're probably going to get in. If they don't beat Georgia, they're probably going to be out. So they definitely have a chance. They're alive. It's not looking great. The pallbearer's at the front door. He has not entered the house yet, though. So that might be a stupid reference. I don't know. But Texas beat Vandy 34-31. Vanderbilt tried to come back and get the win, was not able to do so. It's a big hit for them as well. 2 losses is not great. They've got some games coming up. Obviously, they're going to end the season against Tennessee. That'll be a big game. They definitely still are alive and can make it. I just think that it's going to take a lot. And Texas has somehow played themselves back into college football conversations for the playoff. Texas has 2 big games left. They're going to play Georgia and they're going to play Texas A&M. They need to win, preferably both. I predict they win neither. However, could they win both? Yes, absolutely. Georgia has this tendency to sleepwalk through games, especially in the first half. You can't screw around with a very good Texas team. They will beat them. Texas A&M, kind of similar. They're going to have to lock in and play some really good football. If Texas wins one, loses one, it's going to be iffy. They win both, they're for sure in. They lose both, they're probably for sure out. So their destiny is essentially in their hands. But we'll see what ends up happening there. And Oklahoma beat Tennessee 33-27. Essentially puts Tennessee out of the playoff race, or does put Tennessee out of the playoff race. 3 losses. They've lost pretty much every really good team they played. I do think they're a good team. Just obviously haven't been able to get the big wins when they mattered. Disappointing for them, but they definitely can still turn the season around. I mean, they're 6-3, I think. Yeah, they're 6-3. So they're going to a bowl. They can win a few more games, maybe. I don't think they're getting in, but Rocky Top's probably not going to quit. So Oklahoma, obviously still hanging around for playoff contention. I do not expect them to make it. I do think it is possible for them to make it. They're pretty similar to Texas. This upcoming weekend, we have a really good matchup with BYU and Texas Tech. I think College Game Day is going to Texas Tech. College Game Day is going somewhere in Texas. I do know that. They're going to Texas Tech because Patrick Mahomes is the guest picker. BYU's 8-0. Texas Tech's 8-1. Texas Tech has that all-world defense. We'll see who ends up winning this game. I do think Texas Tech's defense probably is going to be able to beat out BYU's very good offense. But we'll see what ends up happening there. This is big implications for the Big 12 championship. Big 12 obviously has, BYU, Texas Tech. They have Arizona State hanging around there, Utah hanging around there. Definitely still have some very good teams, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Obviously, a ranked Houston loss to West Virginia last weekend probably puts them a lot lower, but see what ends up happening. I think the Big 12 is going to be very interesting looking at for the playoff. So I printed out, because I can't remember anything, because I'm like 100, the rankings for the top 25, really the top 12 that matter for the college football playoff. One of the biggest issues people have is Notre Dame being above Miami. Considering that Miami beat Notre Dame early in the year, Notre Dame has not played a lot of great teams other than beating a very good USC team. USC is very good. That's a good win. But Notre Dame has pretty much done everything they needed to do since those 2 losses, which are by a combined 4 points. Not that it matters. Wins are wins, losses are losses. But I will just say they beat every team they played by a lot. They beat USC pretty easily. I understand the desire to push them to join a conference. I understand saying they have 2 losses. Miami has 2 losses. It shouldn't matter when they lose, especially considering Miami beat Notre Dame. I understand all those arguments. It's also worth noting the committee likes Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a big brand. If Notre Dame comes into the season with 2 losses and Miami has 2 or 3, Notre Dame will make the college football playoff. Should they? Debate amongst yourselves. I'm just saying that is what will end up happening. A lot of interesting ones. I think the committee, BYU's in there, Texas Tech is in there. Probably, I think people expected 1 Big 12 team. I don't know if they expected 2. I think the committee, I've seen a lot of people talk about it. They're just kind of punting, and they're just going to rank them where they're at for now and see where it ends at the end of the season. Obviously, 3 or 4 games left. A lot can happen between now and then. An undefeated team could lose 3 or 4 games and be out. They're not going to, but it could happen. But it's very interesting. I think you have 7-1 Louisville, 7-1 or 8-1 Virginia at 14-15. I think that's something that is kind of interesting. I understand the ACC is not in the best place, but I do understand why some people will be upset, especially with a 6-2 Notre Dame, who's essentially played an ACC adjacent schedule, has more losses, and is about 5 spots higher. But like I said, brands matter. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I look forward to talking to this a lot more. I enjoy breaking down and really kind of covering who gets in, who should get in. But obviously, we still have some weeks to go, so it's not too crucial at the moment. This will change. Teams will get in, teams will get out. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But that's about all I have for college football this week. Stay tuned. We're getting into the best stretch of the season, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Peace. For movies and TV, we have coming up one of the biggest weekends I think I've seen recently. A lot of good movies come out, a lot of good stuff to talk about. But let's jump back to this past weekend. We had The Black Phone 2 coming in first with about $8.3 million at the box office. Not incredibly surprising. Got this burst. I do think it's probably Halloween holiday. People want to go see a horror film. It's also a message to people who make movies that if you release horror-centric movies around Halloween, people go to theaters to watch them around Halloween. Crazy, I know. But outside Regretting You, come in with about $7.8 million. Saw it in theaters. Is it a perfect movie? No. If you can, emotionally, it was awesome. You had Chainsaw Man come in third with about $6.2 million. Demon Hunters K-pop with about $5.3 million. Don't know much about either of those, but it is worth pointing out. We also have Begonia coming in with about $5 million. A little bit less than I think I expected, but very interesting film. I could definitely see it being something that kind of hits online or on streaming. Some coming weekend, we have some stuff that I'm really interested in. You have Predator Badlands, Dan Trachtenberg's continuation from Prey and Predator Killer of Killers. I'm very excited for this movie. I think it's going to be really cool. I think the Predator and Alien franchise has both really been hitting a lot recently. I've not seen a lot of misses. And very interested to see how these universes continue to build and expand. Obviously, they're in a shared universe. They both take place together. So we'll see where they end up going. You also have Nuremberg, which stars Rami Malek, Russell Crowe. Pretty great ensemble cast. Pretty interested in that. It's a post-World War II, I want to say drama. I didn't look that far into the actual description, but it looks very interesting. Poster looks cool too. I like the poster, but we'll see what ends up happening there. But I think that's a very cool movie. I don't know that it'll be a box office hit, but I think it could definitely be a critical one. You also have Christy, starring Sydney Sweeney, about famous boxer Christy Martin. Very excited for that. Kind of my main point for the week, so we'll come back to that. You also have Die My Love, starring Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence. A lot of stuff about it recently. It looks really cool, kind of an independent film. I'm not super familiar with the source material, but I do think it looks really interesting. I'll be excited to see what ends up happening there. I think it's a very cool movie. I've seen the trailer in theaters. It looks really cool. I also have Sarah's Oil, starring Zachary Levi. Family-friendly film. Looks cool. I've said looks cool for every film here. They all suck. No, I'm just kidding. They all do look cool, though. I can't help it. I like a lot of movies. You also have The Christmas Ring, starring Kelsey Grammer. But, so for TV and streaming, we have new episodes of The Chair Company, Tim Robinson, which has been great. I have episode 5, I do believe, this Sunday. It has been hilarious, funniest show on TV. Very excited to see where it's going. It's rare that a show can be so funny and also so kind of mysterious and interesting that you're really invested in what ends up happening. I'm very interested to see where it goes. You also have It, Welcome to Derry. People have really loved this show. I've watched some of the first episode. I have not fully caught up yet. It's been really great so far. It's also cool with James Remar, Harry Morgan from Dexter. That's a fun little role. You also have The Last Frontier, starring Jason Clarke on Apple TV. Looks very cool. You have Down the Cemetery Road on Apple TV. Tulsa King, obviously starring Sylvester Stallone. Paramount Plus. Boston Blue on Paramount. And Pluribus on Apple TV from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul creator Vince Gilligan. Also starring star of Better Call Saul, Rhea Seehorn. I think it has like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I've not heard a negative review about this show yet. Everybody seems to love it. It looks really cool. I am personally really excited to check it out. I think there's so much good TV on streaming and in theaters. You know, you can go watch something in theaters, come home, watch something on streaming. It's just so fascinating. But the main point I have for Christy, I think personally I'm very interested to see how this film goes. Sydney Sweeney has had a few films recently that have not fully hit at the box office. I'm interested to see if this one is able to. I personally just think she kind of gets a bad rap. A lot of people always try to act like she's not a good actress. She's just there because she's hot. And I'm not saying, I mean, she is hot, but at the same time, I also think she is a good actress, especially in films that allow her to use some range and, you know, really kind of expand her skills a little bit. But I'm hoping that this movie is successful and maybe it'll help kind of revert that narrative from she is just more than a pretty face, people. I just kind of want to throw that out there. But I'll be very interested to see how this ends up going. I think there's so many good movies at the box office. It creates kind of an issue where people just aren't going to be able to go see all of them, and that's just the truth. So they're kind of going to beat each other out a little bit, whereas I feel like you have weekends where there's not as much out. But you also, the reverse of that, maybe people coming out makes them want to come out more than once. I don't know. I am not a box office expert. I just look at numbers and make predictions, and they're usually wrong. So keep that in mind. Never take my advice on anything. Please, never. But there's so much good stuff to see. I was able to check out several movies, like I mentioned, Regretting You. Really fun movie. It's not a perfect film, but if you like a fun rom-com, it was incredible. I think if you're able to kind of get invested emotionally in the characters, it is a really fun movie, and it's a fun time at theaters. I was obviously able to do that. So, but very cool. A lot of stuff to see. You can see it in theaters. A lot of good stuff to see at home. A lot of good stuff you can do both. But yeah, check back next week. We'll have more to talk about.